TeenSpeak, empowering today's youth. TeenSpeak explores the unique strategies and stories of amazing young people from around the globe who are pushing boundaries, overcoming adversity, and achieving greatness. The guests share their personal stories of success, resilience, and courage with an infectious dose of inspiration to help encourage our listeners to create the life they desire. Your hosts, Keith Senzer and Antwaun Thompson, are youth empowerment and leadership coaches that have dedicated themselves to helping teens find their true north by educating, supporting, and inspiring them.
Well, hello, this is Coach T. Antwaun Thompson in North Carolina, and I am joined by my co-host, Keith Senzer.
Hello, I'm from Virginia this last couple months.
Yeah, Keith is normally in New York, but he is in Virginia, which is near my hometown, and we're going to hope to catch up with each other. This is TeenSpeak, empowering today's youth. It's a podcast for teens, about teens, and starring teens. Keith and I are both youth leadership and empowerment coaches. And our goal is really for Keith, it is about showing kids their true north. And for me, it's about educating, supporting, and inspiring the next generation of leaders. And the reason we started this podcast, and Keith, you jump in whenever you want, but we understand the kids have a voice and we want them to share their voices because there's a lot that they have to offer. And many of them don't feel as though their voices matter.
Could not agree more. We see it all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we both have worked with kids that we've seen what they have to offer. And for me, it is so enlightening to know that they're willing to come on this platform and share with us. And just to give you a quick synopsis, we've had a young lady that's an All-American fencer from Northeastern University that came on, and Northwestern, I think it was, came on and talked about body shaming, which I thought was phenomenal. And the fact that she spoke up, not only just for her peers, but also to the leadership when they didn't want her to do it. And she shared with them why it was important for her to have that stance. And I think that that's a perfect example of why these young people need to have a voice.
Yeah, I also think it's important because, like, I always joke around, but when I'm coaching, right, a lot of the things that I'll tell a team that I'm working with, they'll say to me, "Oh yeah, my parents say that to me all the time," but they don't listen to their parents, but they'll listen to me because I'm not their parent, right? So I find that with teens, when they hear it from other teens, just knowing that they're not struggling with something alone, because as crazy as it may sound to us, teenagers oftentimes think they're the only ones struggling with this particular issue. And even though in our minds we're like, so many teens struggle with this, they truly really feel that they're the only ones. So when they hear from other teens that they're not alone, that just opens up a whole new door for them to just be able to share, and also just the way they look at things and to understand, hey, I'm not alone. There's other my colleagues are going through the same thing. And once you kind of have that, it creates that safe space to talk about it. And I think that's why this podcast is great, because when we bring on somebody that's talking about things like that, right, and other teens are listening to it, it resonates with them. And hopefully, they may not come on our podcast, but maybe they're going to go back in school and have a conversation with their friends about what they heard, which is going to help those people as well, right? Helps their friends or helps their group.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll throw the other angle, Keith. You talked about how, the kids say the parents say it all the time. I've actually had parents tell me that they've told their kids that, but they don't listen to them. So parents will even admit the fact that they like knowing that there are other adults like you and myself and others that are willing to kind of reinforce what they're saying so that the kids understand that, hey, what mom and dad are saying, it is true, because, Coach Keith or Coach T is telling me the same thing. So there must be some validity to what they're saying. And I think that speaks volumes for kids being open to taking direction and guidance from other people other than their parents, and then putting the two and two together and realize that, hey, well, if mom and dad are saying it and coach is saying it, must be something true to it. So I think that that's really important for kids to understand that there are a lot of other people other than their parents that care about their futures.
Yeah, and I think it's just being teenagers. I mean, even my own kids, I mean, they're older now, but I've had conversations with them where, like, when they were younger, I would say something to them, and pretty profound, I thought, at the time. And
Right.
they're just like, yeah, whatever. And like years later, my son will say to me, "Do you remember when we were doing this and you told me that?" And I was kind of like, he's like, "You were right. Like, I know I might not have been open to it at the moment, but like I actually have used that since, I just haven't told you I did, but it did resonate with me." Like, a lot of times they don't want to admit it, but it does resonate. So sometimes as parents, we don't know that what we said had impact, which is why our words are so important, because it works the opposite way too, right? If we say something hurtful or demeaning or that makes them feel worse, like they remember that too.
Yeah.
So words matter. Like how we speak to our kids is so important, because when we say things that resonate, even though it might not feel like it, it does. It's there. Just it doesn't get triggered until they need to revisit it. But when you say stuff that's doesn't make them feel good, they remember that too.
Yeah.
And that's
You
why
may,
that's why we have therapists.
yeah, exactly. We don't. You saying that reminded me. This you'll appreciate this. This happened probably a couple of years ago, but when I was in my 20s, when I first really just started getting into coaching, I coached this JV team in high school. You're talking 30 some years later. Kid on that team who I cut. And he came back and he said, "Hey, coach, he had broken his finger, so he didn't try it very well." He goes, "I really feel like I didn't get a fair shake." And I'm like, "You know what? Hey, I appreciate the fact you spoke up." So I gave him another chance. And I'm like, I gave him a spot because you earned it, because you worked hard. But the other, I really respect the fact he spoke up for himself. Well, fast forward, he reaches back out to me 30 some years later because his son, who was 15 at the time, was going through something with his coaches. And he said the messaging and what I taught him when he was a sophomore, freshman in high school stuck with him, and he was sharing it with his son and how to deal with it. And it goes to your point, you don't realize the things that you say matter. And here we're talking 30 something years later and had an impact on him. And I'm saying to myself, wow, I didn't even know I was giving him those kind of nuggets. But it makes you know, as an adult, everything you say does have an impact on kids. It could be positive or it could be negative. So be careful of the words that you choose.
Yeah, not even kids, anybody. Words matter as adults, right? I mean, just
Yeah.
words matter. I mean, so one of the things we probably should have mentioned, which we didn't. So we typically have teens coming on this podcast, but you know, Antoine and I also felt that there's so much wisdom and knowledge that we have through just the teams we've worked with and just the work that we do, that instead of doing a long hour-long podcast, these are going to be real quick, kind of we're going to have a topic and we're just going to have a brief discussion on it. And we're in hopes that the teens that are listening to this are going to take that information and apply it, because it really, really helps. I don't know if you want me to jump in, Antoine, but we were talking about today, like we just want to talk about gratitude and the importance of gratitude. Gratitude is one of those things that I think sometimes we don't take the time to fully absorb, to really sit back and think about and recognize. And truly, it can make the difference between a healthy mindset and an unhealthy mindset. I like before I go to bed every night, I always have a gratitude conversation with myself, right? It's not anything, we're doing it for so long, so I don't need to write it down, right? But, I always say to myself, what am I grateful for today that happened? What can I do? What didn't happen? Like, what's something I want to be better tomorrow? And what do I need to do to get there, right? And I have that conversation in my head every night. And truth be told, it works, because I get up in the morning and I'm like, all right, I know I need to make this better today, right? And then like, Antoine, what do you think about journaling? I mean, I think gratitude journals are great. I'm in the middle of actually developing one with my business partner for my other business. And, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, I think gratitude journals are phenomenal.
I love the journaling part because it puts you in a position of being accountable, to be held accountable for your words, whether they're spoken or written. And I think it's a great way also to reflect, go back and remind yourself that, hey, this is what I held myself to. And I know for me, I've actually started doing that probably in the last month or so, Keith. And I think you're right. Your words have power. And it also shifts your mindset, and regardless of what you may be going through. And I think resilience has a lot to do with gratitude as well. I think it develops resilience in kids too by doing that. But the journaling is a great way to hold yourself accountable, and also to be responsible for your own success in different aspects of your life, but specifically for gratitude.
And it also creates self-awareness, right? Because if you're, when you go back and you read that journal and you look at things, it kind of gives you a clue into like how you're really doing. Right. And as a matter of fact, the gratitude journal that I'm working on, we actually have a mood tracker where every day you have to color in a picture with your mood. So when you look at that at the end of the month, the color of that picture, the different colors, if there's certain colors that resonate with a certain mood, if that's not a mood you want to be in, that's telling you something. There's something going on there. Your mood has always been here. maybe your mood's red instead of blue. Well, that should be telling you something. If that picture has a lot of red and you associate red with anger or sadness or frustration, that's a self-awareness piece to look at and say, you know what, I need to figure this out. Clearly something's going on. So but gratitude's important. And I'll give you another example. You know this well, right? Why am I so close to Antwaun in Virginia? My daughter has been on crutches and has had 3 ankle surgeries for the last 10 months. I've been living with her in a 1-bedroom apartment, sleeping on a couch since July of 24. I'm still here. I've seen my wife and my son maybe 5 times in the last 7 months. Um, that sucks, right? I miss my family, I miss my kid, I miss my wife, but I love my daughter, right? And I'm grateful that I have the kind of job where I can work from her kitchen counter here and see my clients and make the impact I make. But also, I'm grateful for the fact that like one day this kid's going to get married and there's going to be a man in her life that she's going to be spending the rest of her life with. And I'm not going to be that guy anymore. Right now, I'm her guy, right? I'm her dad. Her dad's everything to her. So this is time I will never get with her. We go out to dinner on the weekends. We go to movies. We sit and have dinner every night and watch TV. Like I have so much quality time with her that I will never get. And most dads will never get this kind of time with their kid. Like for me, that is something to be so grateful for. And like, I'll never we'll joke around in the future, be like, remember when dad was my roommate? But the truth is, so grateful for the time I get to be with her because one day I won't have this time with her. Right? There'll be somebody else in her life, her kids and, her family. And I'm not going to be able to be spending this kind of time with her. So as hard as it is being away from the people you love and not being in my typical space, right? My home, this is a beautiful opportunity to spend with my kid. So, I could have looked at it and been miserable and be like, this sucks. I can't believe I have to sleep on the couch and I haven't been home in 7 months. But the truth is, I'd rather look at the positive of it and the beauty of getting to spend the time with her. So that's just an example. And it's a pretty extreme one, to be honest. But for teens, it's so simple, right? Like there's got to be something in your day to be grateful for. Even if it's like, I'm just grateful for this friend. I'm grateful for this teacher that, believes in me. I'm grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for, God, at our age, right? I'm grateful to wake up on the right side of the dirt. So,
Yeah. Well, you just really gives overview, and because we knew we were going to be talking about gratitude, and I put some notes in here about relationships, and you just explained it perfectly. Being grateful and showing gratitude makes you appreciate the relationships that you have. Use the example you just gave. Being away from your wife and your son makes you appreciate that relationship even more. Being with your daughter, spending the time you have now, like you said, there are a lot of dads that wish they would be able to have the quality time that you're having with just the 2 of you. There's nobody to impede on that relationship while you're there. But the other part that's so great too is you're also providing your daughter just a little bit more into who you are, even though she's a young adult. But you're also sharing with her what kind of man she's going to eventually find, because she knows what the value in the relationship that you have and what you're willing to sacrifice and do for her, even now when she's an adult. So I think that was a perfect example and an explanation of the power of gratitude, and even in absence, of not having your wife or your son Brett with you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I'm grateful for, our relationship. And I think even though we're talking about teens, we're talking about parents' relationship with their teens and being appreciative. But you mentioned about teachers and coaches that the kids have in their lives. There are a lot of adults in their lives that they can learn so much from if they're willing to understand that there's value in every adult relationship that they have. Not everybody is going to be there to tell them how to do, what to do, or, just do because I said. We both understand the power of our words, but we also understand the power of not judging and listening, because those are the 2 things I think a lot of young people feel as though it's not being done. They feel as though they're being judged a lot, and they don't feel as though they're being heard, which leads to why we have this podcast, so that they can be heard and they can share their voices without being judged, because we want them to say what they want, because they're speaking for other kids that aren't able or feel comfortable enough to come on and speak for themselves and their peers.
Yeah. Truly, like if as a teen listening to this, definitely go out and buy a gratitude journal. It doesn't have to be, most of them that they make now, they all have prompts, right? It tells you exactly what to write. It's not, It's not like you have to free flow and go in there and journal. It's going to ask you questions and you can just follow the prompts. But let me tell you, it is so healthy for the mind. And like Antoine said, it builds resilience, because when you hit those struggles, or you recognize what you're grateful for, but you know there's more that you wanted to get out of something, it helps build grit and resilience to go back out and get it. And then you'll be grateful for the fact that you were able to accomplish that down the road, right? Because when we're not grateful for what we have, we sometimes forget about where we want to go. So gratitude journals are great. I would tell you, there's a million of them on Amazon. When mine comes out, I'll let you know about it. It's living by mine, but just there's so many out there. And if you buy one with prompts, it'll really help you stay focused on what to be grateful for. And when you have a gratitude mindset, the world opens up to you. It's like there's nothing that can bring you down, because you just have so much to be grateful for, right? I mean, there's always going to be the negative, but when you can come from a place of gratitude, the negative doesn't really have control over you, right? You get to control how you want to feel.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in that. One of my favorite quotes, Keith, is your attitude almost always determines your altitude in life. So,
Yep.
you can substitute, I think, attitude and put gratitude in there too, because I mean, that truly does help build your personal growth and development skills in other areas as too, is being appreciative. I wanted to, before we head out, I wanted to make sure that people understand there's an opportunity for them to be a guest on our podcast. If you're a preteen or teen, middle school, high school, or college, we would absolutely love to have you be a guest on. Keith and I would love to have you come on. And Keith is great at, if you're nervous, he has a great way of making sure that you're comfortable when you come on, because he reminds everybody, if anybody's going to say anything goofy, dumb, or not appropriate, it's going to be either him or myself. So you never have to worry about that. Am I right, Keith?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So if you go to shiftyourpower.com or to my website, CoachTeachCorner.com, we both have a form on there for you to fill out. You fill that out, submit it, and we'll reach out to you and schedule time for you to come on. And like I said, if you are dealing with mental health issues, or if it's bullying, body shaming, self-confidence, whatever it may be, if you know you have a voice that you want to be heard, this is the platform for you, because the podcast for teens, about teens, but most importantly, starring teens.
Absolutely. And we have so many topics we want to bring to you, over the next couple of months. We want to talk about, I was just talking to Antoine earlier, but, the power of the word yet, being authentic versus wearing a mask, right? Trying to be who you are instead of trying to be popular, right? There's so many, and on, resistance and resilience and grit. And so, we're really going to try to come on here and give you these quick kind of like just perspectives on things, and even some exercises to do it yourself to help build those skills. Because at the end of the day, your generation is the future, right? And if we have good, sound adults that are in control of their emotions, right, it just helps create a much better world, more peaceful world, more loving world. And really, that's our goal, right? If you find your true north and be the best version of yourself, you become the best version of yourself for everybody else, and hopefully that inspires other people to be the best version of themselves.
See, I know why. Another reason we fit well together, Keith, because I think our mission statements and our taglines go hand in hand. You help kids find their true north, and I help them find their true north through simplicity, effort, and attitude. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's that's why I think we're a perfect mesh. And before we go, I want to make sure we talk so much about relationships with kids, but I think it's really important for kids to understand the importance of relationship that adults have. And I'll probably say it a lot as well as Keith will. I'm very appreciative of a relationship that we've developed over the last, I think it's almost 4 years now. I think it is, Keith. And we've actually had the pleasure of being able to meet face to face. And we're probably going to meet here in the next few weeks, because I'll be going to Virginia, and he's only minutes from where I'm going to be. But I'm really appreciative of our relationship, our friendship even, and to be able to share this stage with you. But more importantly, to share our passion, our mission, and our purpose of really helping young people be the best versions of themselves, and not allow outside influences to deter them from reaching the goals that they have for themselves.
I'm grateful for you as well, my friend.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, we're going to wrap this episode up. This has been great to reconnect with my buddy and us for talk about gratitude. And we hope that you will stay tuned and follow us for our next episode. These podcasts are on Apple Podcasts, also Spotify, iHeart radio as well as on YouTube. We'll be doing the video versions, and we hope that you will like, share, and comment, because we love to have the engagement. If you have a topic that you'd like for us to maybe provide some insight on, feel free to leave comment on the YouTube channel. It'll be on my Coach T's Corner YouTube channel, and we will look forward to hearing from you, seeing you, and we look forward to having some young people come on and share their voices on the TeenSpeak, empowering today's youth. I am Coach T.
Coach Keith.
And we will see you soon.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Are you looking for an experienced youth empowerment and leadership coach to help your teenager find their true north? Look no further. Let Coach Keith and Coach T show you how, through education, support, and inspiration. Visit their websites, shiftyourpower.com and CoachTscorner.com, respectively, to learn more about the services they offer and to book a session today.